You're not chasing success, love, or pleasure. You're running from a wound you can't see. For years you've been running, though you never said it out loud. You thought the problem was money, or love, or recognition, or power. But deep down, it was none of those things. It was a void, a dark emptiness that follows you everywhere. You've tried to fill it with alcohol, sex, pills, endless work, or the approval of others. Yet no matter what you consume, you stay hungry. Because that hunger isn't in your body, it's in your soul. Every attempt to escape it has only circled you back into its depths. You swear again and again, this will be the last time. You mark the calendar, you promise yourself, you promise others. But each vow dissolves in the silence of midnight, when the abyss opens again and pulls you back down. Addiction is not a bad habit. It is not weak will. It is a scream buried in silence, an echo of pain that was never given words. And because it was never named, it repeats itself endlessly, wearing different masks, but always pointing to the same origin. If you are honest, you know this. You know that what keeps you chained is not the substance in your hand, but the wound in your chest. The drink, the needle, the cigarette, the late-night screen, these are not the executioners. They are mirrors reflecting a face you have avoided. The child within you, who once longed to be seen, to be held without conditions, to be told with absolute certainty, you are enough. That moment never came, and so the void was born. You can dress it with pleasure, numb it with stimulants, disguise it with ambition, but the wound remains, whispering through every relapse. The truth is more unsettling than you would like. The enemy you thought was alcohol, cocaine, pornography, gambling, or distraction was never the real enemy. They are only messengers, crude and destructive, but faithful. They point like arrows back to the same place, the wound of abandonment, the wound of the mother. And I don't mean only the flesh and blood woman who bore you, but the archetype, the primordial source of warmth and nourishment. If the archetype was fractured, if the fountain of unconditional love was poisoned or absent, then you were set upon a pilgrimage that has haunted your entire existence. You were condemned to seek endlessly what was never given. That is why discipline alone fails. That is why motivational speeches collapse after a week. You are not battling a substance, you are fleeing from a truth. Carl Jung, with terrifying clarity, warned that what we refuse to make conscious appears in our lives as fate. Your fate, up until now, has been the compulsive attempt to fill an absence with substitutes that only enlarge it. You try to drink away your thirst with sand. You try to embrace a shadow as though it were flesh. No wonder it fails. But here lies the strange grace. Addiction, as cruel as it is also the map. It points, again and again, to the door you never dared to open. Every relapse, every spiral, every late-night fall is a knock at that door. The void is not a curse, it is a compass. It leads you, against your will, back to the primal wound you must face. Until you stand before it, the cycle will not break. You are not seeking pleasure when you consume. You are not even seeking escape. You are seeking your mother, not the woman herself, but the archetype of pure acceptance, the embrace that says, you exist, and that is enough. Every addiction is a counterfeit version of that embrace, a grotesque ritual that tries to recreate what you lost. Think of your rituals: the lit match, the swirling liquid in a glass, the glowing screen in the dark. These are not random acts. They are ceremonies, twisted prayers, attempts at communion. Addiction is a shadow religion, a worship of absence. Humanity has always needed ritual to face the invisible, to reach for what is beyond grasp. But when love is distorted, ritual becomes perverse. You repeat it like a cult of one, day after day, searching not for euphoria, but for connection. Addiction is not simply chemical, it is spiritual. And until you create a new altar, until you redirect the ritual, the compulsion will remain. Here lies the paradox that few dare to say. Addiction has protected you. It is a crude guardian, yes, one that destroys as much as it preserves. But perhaps without it, you would have collapsed entirely. The bottle, the pill, the endless scrolling, these were the armor that shielded you from breaking under the weight of unhealed pain. That is why you cannot simply rip it away like a tumor. It has functioned, however destructively, as a guardian of the most fragile part of you. To heal, you must not kill it, but thank it and release it. To do otherwise is to fight your own body, your own psyche. And yet, while it has shielded you, it has also stolen from you. It has stolen years, relationships, health, money, dreams. It has offered protection at the price of your essence. And this is where the dilemma sharpens. How do you let go of something that kept you alive, even as it destroys you? The answer is not violence, it is meaning. Addiction cannot be conquered by force, but by truth. It cannot be silenced by discipline, but by integration. Only when you understand its function, its hidden message, can you finally say, I no longer need you. But to reach that point, you must dare to enter the shadow itself. Addiction thrives in secrecy. It feeds on silence. As long as you hide, as long as you mask your pain with smiles, it will grow in the dark. The secret is its oxygen. Expose it, and the monster weakens. Confess, reveal, speak, and already you cut off its air. That is why healing requires witnesses. Not to shame you, but to remind you that you are not alone in your exile. Because this exile is not only personal, it is collective. We live in a culture that has abandoned the archetype of the mother, a society that demands production, efficiency, perfection, but withholds unconditional love. We are all, in some sense, symbolic orphans, and so we all inherit addictions, some visible, others invisible. Some drown in substances, others in success, others in endless validation from strangers. Different masks, same poison. The deeper tragedy is that each attempt to escape the void only enlarges it. Every ritual of addiction reinforces the lie that the void must be hidden, denied, numbed. But in truth, the void is not an enemy. It is a womb, the darkness where the seed of transformation is planted. What you fear most is the very portal to your freedom. This is why you must become your own mother. The wound will not be healed by waiting for someone else to finally give you what you missed. That ship has sailed, but you can give it to yourself. You can become the nurturer, the caretaker, the one who whispers to the abandoned child within, I see you. You are enough. This is not sentimental. It is the most radical act of healing you will ever undertake. To embody the very archetype you were denied, to birth yourself from your own compassion. Until then, the compulsion will continue, because addiction is nothing more than your soul begging you to learn how to love yourself. The repressed parts of you, the silenced desires, the unlived passions, the tears you swallowed, these are what fuel the compulsion. Jung called it the shadow. Addiction is the shadow turned into habit. Every excess, every fall, every relapse is a clumsy mask covering a truth you refuse to live. You must not merely stop consuming, you must begin living. You must allow the fire of your authentic desires, your rage, your tenderness, your creativity to have their place. If you do not, the shadow will continue hijacking you through addiction. You cannot chain the storm, you must learn to dance with it. And then there is time. Addiction distorts your relationship with time. In the grip of compulsion, only the immediate present exists. The drink in your hand, the click of a button, the dose, the momentary oblivion. Past and future dissolve. But this present is false. It is an artificial now, disconnected from the flow of your life. Why? Because the past is too painful and the future too frightening. And so you shrink into a moment of anesthesia, a fleeting second that erases both history and destiny. But that second is a prison. It devours everything else.
The only escape is to reconcile with time itself, to embrace your past with its wounds, and to trust the mystery of the future, not to erase them, but to integrate them. Because if you run from time, time will destroy you. But if you accept it, if you carry your story and still open your arms to tomorrow, then compulsion loses its power. Addiction no longer needs to devour your present because your whole being is no longer fractured. Addiction, then, is a language. Every relapse is a word, every compulsion a sentence, every cycle an entire paragraph your soul has been writing across the canvas of your life. You can keep treating it as punishment, or you can begin to read it as revelation.
When you finally translate its language, you will see that it was never trying to destroy you. It was trying, in the most brutal way, to wake you up. For what chains you is not the substance, but the absence of meaning. Addiction is the compass of a life without purpose. When there is no higher direction, the void itself becomes your God, and you kneel before it through rituals of destruction. But once you discover purpose, real purpose, not the counterfeit goals society feeds you, addiction begins to dissolve like shadows at dawn. For light does not fight shadows, it simply renders them powerless. Purpose is that light. It is the reason to keep breathing even when the air is heavy, the reason to rise even when the weight of memory drags you down. But here is the paradox that frightens many, that purpose is not found outside of you. It is not in money, nor in power, nor in the applause of strangers. It is hidden precisely in the wound you most feared. That void you thought cursed is not a grave, but a seed, and the seed waits for you to water it with awareness, with compassion, with truth. You do not find purpose, you give birth to it. You do not stumble upon meaning, you forge it in the fire of your own suffering. The hole in your chest is not a curse from life, it is the sacred space where your authenticity waits to be born. And so the journey is not about defeating addiction, but transforming it into a teacher, to thank it for showing you the wound, to recognize its role as a crude guardian, a clumsy compass, to finally release it, not with hatred, but with gratitude, because even in its destruction, it served you. It preserved your fragile self until you were strong enough to walk without it. It burned you so that you would finally learn to seek water. It shattered you so that you could discover you were unbreakable. When that realization dawns, addiction ceases to be your identity. The words, "I am an addict," lose their iron weight, because you were never your compulsion. You existed before the first drink, before the first pill, before the first night of excess. Addiction was a mask you wore in the dark, but behind it, your essence remained untouched, waiting. You are not the cage. You are the one who holds the key. And the moment you stop identifying with the label, you begin to remember you are something far greater than your patterns. Look deeper, and you will see another truth. Addiction is also the stage where your repressed self tries to speak. Every excess hides a buried desire. Every compulsion masks a silenced dream. You drowned your passions to survive, and they return through the only channel left open. Jung called it the shadow. Addiction is your shadow's language, and the cure is not suppression, but expression. You must dare to live what you buried, to resurrect the art you abandoned, the love you denied, the truth you feared. For if you do not give voice to your authenticity, it will continue to cry out through addiction, and still, the void will whisper. It will remind you of time. Addiction devours time by trapping you in an artificial present. The ritual of consumption erases yesterday and tomorrow, leaving you in a false now, a momentary oblivion. But liberation comes when you reclaim time, when you accept your past, not to glorify it, not to erase it, but to integrate it. When you embrace your future, not to control it, but to trust its unfolding. Then the present stops being a prison and becomes a doorway. You no longer need to shrink into oblivion, because you are able to carry the weight of your story and still move toward what lies ahead. The void was never your curse, it was your doorway. Addiction was not your enemy, but your messenger, guiding you again and again to the place you most feared. You are not the cage, you are the one holding the key. The wound is the path, the scar is the proof, and the light that follows is already yours. Freedom is not found in running away, but in turning inward, in facing what you fled from, and in embracing yourself without condition. For the moment you stop running from yourself is the moment you are finally free.